Welcome to the Athletes Portal, a show about what it takes for student athletes to succeed in the classroom, on the field, and life after. We bring you the community that supports these athletes' success. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Thank you for tuning in to the Athletes Portal. I am your host, Keith Williams. I'm a husband and proud father of two athletes. The Athletes Portal is a weekly show about youth sports. We interview the community that helps student athletes succeed in the classroom, on the field, and life after. No theory here, folks, just reality. Let's get this show started. Today's guest grew up in Indiana, played basketball at junior college, played in a junior college, and then transferred to Texas State. An interesting fact about my guest is they were a member of the Harlem Globe Trotters. My guest's current role is the CEO of Life After Ball. Please welcome Dr. Jermal McCoy. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome, Keith. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to speaking with you today.
Definitely. Well, I want the audience to get to know you a little bit better. I hope you're open to some quick fire questions.
Let's go. Let's shoot. Let's do it.
All right. First three things that you do in the morning.
I'll tell you, the very first thing before my feet hit the ground, I pray. I give thanks. The other thing I do is this is a morning ritual I've had since me and my wife got together. We literally dance in the morning over music for breakfast, during breakfast. So those are two of the things. And the third thing is I've always got I give myself a little 5-minute social media boost that I'll search the media to see what's going on in the world, then I put it down. So those are my three consistent things I do in the mornings.
Good. Speaking of music, what's a song that gets you going?
Say again?
Speaking of music, what's one song that gets you going? What's your theme song? What gets you going?
One song that gets me going. I forget the artist's name, but Today Is Going to Be a Good Day. And it's a remake. It's a great song. I listen to it every day when I wake up. I used to listen up to John Legend's Good Morning. That used to be my alarm in the mornings when I woke up.
Nice.
I transitioned that to It's Going to Be a Good Day. I forget the artist's name. I'm going to figure out that artist's name and tell you what it is.
I know what song you're talking about. I've heard that song. Great choice. That's a great way to start the day. What's a one non-negotiable in your life?
What? Sorry.
What's a one non-negotiable in your life?
One non-negotiable is integrity, period. Absolutely integrity. That's something I will not sacrifice my integrity for anything. That's just one of those things I feel like your integrity is a foundation of the person. And that's something I'm just unwilling to change or give up.
Good answer. Someone's going to play you in a movie. What actor would play you?
Chadwick Boseman.
All right. I like him.
That would be my actor, because I know he would do his homework, his research, and as he was doing his homework and research, he would realize that, wait a minute, this is my cousin. That's why.
Wow. Nice. Excellent.
Yep.
One book you've read that has impacted your life?
I'm say there's a couple, but the one that and it's a thin, easy read, it's called Who Moved My Cheese? And it's just about knowing how to change things to get to where you're going. Basically, if what you're looking for is not there, which is somewhere else, and keep searching for it. That's one of my most impactful, easiest reads for an audience. Something easy to pick up, maybe take you an hour, if that, to read. Definitely life changing.
I know that book. Very familiar. You're right about that. It is a quick read. Very, very impactful. 3 people you could eat dinner with, living or dead. Who's at your table?
I will definitely say, number one, I would love to sit down and have dinner with Yeshua, just to kind of figure out what was going on and get the real message of Jesus and the whole, what's your real name? Like all those questions that I have from that. The second person would be my grandfather, because I want to be able to sit down and just to be in his space for, it could be 2 minutes, just to have that opportunity. And the third person, I would say, that was the third person was a difficult one, but I almost want to say President Obama, just because I know the struggles and the scale of struggles that I've gone through probably can never outweigh what he's gone through, and I like to take some of that knowledge with him before either one of us leaves.
Definitely. He would be a fun person to have a meal with.
He would, especially with the sports background. That's that's where it marries him.
Yeah, that's a good choice. Final question. What city or country would you like to visit?
A city or country I love to visit. I want to go to Ghana. I have not gone to Ghana yet in Africa, on the continent of Africa, but that's one of my goals to go there, because I really want to look at having a house in a different country, and that's one of the places I know that the beaches there are phenomenal. I want to experience them.
Yeah, Ghana. There's a lot of business opportunities in Africa. It's a high growth area. So
Good to know. Thank you.
definitely, definitely. All right. Well, hey, listen, I've got to ask you about the Harlem Globe Trotters. What
All right.
was that like? How did you get involved with the Harlem Globe Trotters?
Great question, especially as a kid who never really knew what the Globe Trotters were. It wasn't a team. I had no idea. You see them on cartoons, and when I was growing up, I was like, oh, that's cool. Nothing I really took seriously. Well, in college, my roommate, his uncle was one of the Super Trotters that played with Gilligan's Island and all that, and he always came to our games. Whenever he had an opportunity, he was at our games watching us play. That's a funny story. He, of course, my roommate, was the transition for him was from there to the Globe Trotters, and he played. Mine was a little different because I got offers to play in different places, but I actually tried out for a developmental team in Texas. I went first round, second overall pick, and I was only a month away from graduating college, and I chose to graduate instead of going through then playing. When I called back after I graduated a month later, said, "Hey, I'm done. Let's go. I'm ready to play." They said, "Well, it doesn't work like that, son. You know, the politics to it." And so when I finished up, my roommate called me back. He said, "Hey, man, we got an opportunity to try out for the Globe Trotters. You want to come out here and give it a shot?" I said, "All right, we'll see." I sent them some film. They were like, "Yes, come to training camp." Went to training camp, and there was one thing I did that got me a contract. Very first thing I did. A guy named Jerome James. He would never remember me because it was a one-time deal. I'm on a fast break. Jerome James was 7'1", 7'2", big as Shaq, period. He was the other Shaq at the same time. Now, as we're going down the break, I said, "Jump," and dunked on him. And everybody, the gym went crazy. They were like, "Oh, get him a contract. Let's go." We were in Walt Disney World in a facility out there. It was a great day and phenomenal. It was phenomenal. So I actually started, a lot of people don't, I actually started playing with the Generals first and then moved over.
What is the Generals? What's the difference? You said the Generals.
So the Generals and New York Nationals are the team that they play against.
Okay.
So yeah, I started on that side and then crossed over to the other side.
And with the Harlem Globetrotters, do you guys run does the season run the same like an NBA season, or is it a summer, or is it all year round?
So when I played, the NBA didn't play as many games as they play now. We literally played, 94 games, 95 games in 110 days because we played twice on Sundays for the U.S. tour. And then we went over to either Asia tour, European tours, or whatever different tours going at the same time. So we had two teams when I played. So it was an East Coast, West Coast team that played at the same times. And then you had tours after the season ended for the U.S. We went to either different continents, Asia, Europe, South Africa, and then it was those teams wouldn't play those different places. So I got a chance to play in Europe before I left and played in a bunch of different countries in Europe before I left with them.
Amazing experience. Did you find that most of the players who were playing with you were fresh out of college, or were they more seasoned players? What was the norm was the profile?
So what a lot of people don't know about the Globetrotters is that there are your stand-in players, those that have certain roles. You know, you have the guy that's on the microphone all the time. You have your dunkers, you have your showmen. And then you have a group of players that are players. And when I say players, these kids, because we were kids at the time, were probably a step or two away from the NBA. Some were in the NBA, and they might have a 10-day contract, and they came back and played with us for a couple of months or so. Then they went back to the NBA team. And fun fact, if you didn't know, the Globetrotters used to be the game that was played before the NBA teams played. The Globetrotters were the one who actually brought the crowd to the games, and they would stay to watch the NBA after the game. And sometimes back then you had some of the NBA players playing on the Globetrotters that they saw the tricks, and then they got a chance to see that in a real game to go up and down with other players. So the Globetrotters were literally the stepping stone for the NBA. Hence the reason why we're considered within the Retired Players Association as Globetrotters as are part of that as well with the NBA and WNBA, the legends of basketball.
Nice. So it was almost like a pre-concert.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I got to watch the Globetrotters as a kid, and so I was pretty familiar with them. And I was in Canada, so I know that they traveled internationally.
I have been all over Canada, from Ottawa to Vancouver. I've been over one side.
Nice. What a fantastic experience, and something that a lot of young players can do if they're not going to the NBA.
I will say, I would definitely say that because there are plenty of roles to play professional basketball. There are definitely different avenues. I played, after I left the Globetrotters, I went and played overseas in Venezuela, Korea, Japan, and the money was still great money for me. the fact that they paid anything. If you love the game, you love the game. Like you want to play the game and be around it. And I just wanted to wait. I just wanted to find a way to stay around the game for a little longer, or as long as I possibly could. And then we move on.
Definitely. Speaking of moving on, what prompted you and what motivated you to start life after basketball? And tell us about your experience with this.
Yeah, life after ball was something I was doing. To be honest with you, and I give credit to God just because in the middle of the night I got up at 3:18. I remember the time 3:18 in the middle of the morning. I said, "Get up, write this down," and I wrote down "lab life after ball." Mm-hmm. And then it was like, man, because I was already doing the work. Because everybody, all my friends would call me and say, "Hey, can you help me? I just finished up playing. I don't know what to do." Then I would kind of break down, what do you like to do? Like my process was this. And I used the process that I had with other people and found it to be successful. What I did find was that these are my friends. So I'm going to walk with them hand in hand until they get to where they want to go. It's just being a teammate. They were former teammates. They're always teammates. We're going to do this together. Let's knock this out and make it happen. And I have some phenomenal stories of some guys that when I went to junior college, some of my friends that I had in junior college to help them with their homework and things like that. And then here we are, 360 degrees again, we're back in the same space, except for now we can lock in and just focus on that. And now those same people, I mean, one's a step away from being a principal at a high school in Indiana, and the others have gone from having 0 degree to 3 degrees. So it's a phenomenal size, some phenomenal stories. That I could talk about my friends with, and I love it. That's the part of this whole finding this thing is seeing the growth in people.
Yeah, and I think it's so much more important now because people identify so much by the sport of what to do, especially young people, and sports you've got a short window, as you know. It's not something everybody's not going to be LeBron James and play for 20 plus years. So you're going to have to do something else. And I think what you do, it's needed. It's needed now more than ever. And I commend you for it. And it helps people in all different stages of life because people are changing careers now. Nobody's staying in the same career, like
right.
From the start of your career to the end of your career, it's likely you're going to change careers. I think
it's interesting because you think about, especially now, with a lot of jobs that are being taken from AI and all that. So one of the things we actually focus on is actually AI training for some people as well when they get done playing, so they can know how to operate their own business or even modify your resume, how to speak to what you've done in the past. Career, like one of the big, like I said, the very first thing we address is identity. Because you don't know who you are, especially guys who come out, and let's just be realistic. Let's say a football player, for example. You might have a lineman come out. He might be 6'8", 370 pounds. The first question he's going to get asked when he walks into anywhere, "Oh, you play football?" And if that's not his life anymore, how do you answer that question? I used to, and you're always speaking in the past, and then you're always reliving your past life and never looking ahead. You're always looking behind.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, even people who are very successful, I saw an interview with Shaquille O'Neal. And he was talking about how when he finished his career, and Shaq had a long career, as you know. I mean, Shaq was 15, 18. He was in the league a long time. It wasn't. Good. And this guy, we all know, is a superstar. And he said he was depressed because he didn't know what was next. He had identified himself. And I said, if this man is struggling, and he was successful, even before he retired, he was successful outside of basketball. I don't know if you followed him, but
yeah. He was successful when his first year in the NBA. He was already. I watched a documentary that he actually spoke on, and he said he figured out how if he can make people laugh, they would like him. Yes. So he would go into every shoot like commercial, and he realized when people liked him, commercialized. He's using a bunch of commercials. I say, wow, and that's why he's always the funny guy.
Yes, he is.
He takes your idea of his height and he jokes, and now your guards are down.
Yeah,
which is great for somebody 7'1" African American male that walks into a room like this, 300 something pounds, like, oh, that's a big guy, and immediately people get kind of intimidated. But then you joke, it's like, okay, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. I've seen. I mean, I have not met him in person, but I've seen video of him, and you are right. He is very personable. Seems very approachable, and he gives a lot back. But like I said, I was amazed that he didn't know what he was going to do, and I think when he got on to, I think it was TNT, the announcing, he said it just gave him so much purpose. And so I say this just to say that if he's someone who struggled, by his own admission, imagine, and I'm sure you've seen, imagine how many others or other athletes who are not as famous as him are having a tough go.
Yeah, even the famous ones, you think about it. Beckham couldn't let it go. Tom Brady couldn't let it go.
Yeah, still going strong.
You can't let it go. It's like, at some point, and the good thing is that they've set themselves up to do things after the fact, but that love is still there. They got to, transition is not easy. Again, because since you're 7 years old or younger, this has been who you are and what you do. And when you see it, and now when you get on the court with kids who are a lot younger than you are, and you realize like, man, I physically cannot do this forever.
Yes.
Which you typically find, you'll be coaching AAU teams or doing basketball training or football training or baseball training. And while they're trying to figure it out, that's that stage of I hadn't let go of who I am, but I'm dealing with it right now.
Yes.
So
Definitely. So what's your vision for life after ball?
for the company or for myself?
For the either or, yes. I think it's tied in. I mean,
It's all tied in. Honestly, I want to see life after ball everywhere. I want to see life where you see the NCAA symbol. I want to see life after ball right next to it, because then you'll know that they're not only are they being supported by their coaches on the court, they're being supported by their coaches off the court. And once we're that big and everybody knows the importance of it, then I know I've reached that's my first milestone goal, when I'm able to see my logo next to the NCAA logo and everyone knows what we do, who we are, and the purpose of it. And to me, that's the ultimate, because it completely sets us up for success. It's labeled, it's on us at that point.
yeah. I also think it's going to be more needed at that level because college players, even though they have now, I guess it's 5 years, that time goes by quickly. And with a lot of people transferring, one of the things we're hearing is that everybody's not getting their degree. And so there are a lot of athletes who we haven't seen yet. They made good money, but they may not have a plan for what's next. So I do think they're going to need that. And that's going to avoid things like depression. And, like there's going to be some challenges for some folks if they haven't prepared themselves for, like you said, life after ball.
And here's the bad part, especially with the college kids, and we do high school kids as well. It's not just, we don't limit ourselves to just college and pros. High schools, because 4% get college scholarships.
You're right.
So the 96% still has some guys that need it. It's not as many because it's early enough to move on from. College, not so much. Again, now we're talking about the 4%, 1% of the 4% make it pro. So we're talking about all those NCAA games that we watched. Let's say women's, right? There are 60 and more teams, more than 63 or more teams that got to sit down and their careers ended. A lot of kids' careers ended, completely done.
Yes.
And they're trying to figure life out at that moment. Hopefully somebody hears this and they'll plug in with us and we can help guide them in the right direction and be that coach and that mentor or that person they can lean on when they need to.
Definitely. Speaking of high school, the high school scene is changing now. We've got private school, prep, we've got overtime elite, and you've played college. What do you think today is the best path for students? Because you're saying only 4%, which is accurate, are going to make it to college. What do you think is the best path with all these options, or is it a combination of steps?
I think what needs to be established immediately before you even decide what you want to do is, what is your goal? Like, what is your goal? Is your goal to play professional sports? And if that's the goal, and as a parent, I would want my student or my child to know exactly what's involved in playing professional sports. They need to know the ins and outs. So when you commit to it, you have to really commit to it. Mm. What I didn't realize, I love playing. I absolutely love playing. But when it came to it being a job, there's something different. I leaned on my own training, my own work ethic is what I leaned on. When I ran against other players that didn't have the same work ethic, I usually won because you didn't have the same work ethic. You were playing for a different reason. One of my biggest concerns as a player was when I run up against somebody who has kids and I don't, because they're playing to keep food on the table and I'm playing to have fun. And then I had to really check myself. Do I even want to win that game? And when I got to that point, it was really, maybe it's time to do something different if I'm feeling like that. But I got injured, so the game retired me. But I think if so, once you've established that goal, if you want to play professional, then you got to get experience. The only way you'll get that experience I would go to junior college first, to be honest with you, because it's not costing me anything. I'm getting the experience that I need. I'm not using any eligibility in the process. I'm building my brand in the process. So when I do transfer, I have companies that's fighting for me to, in schools fighting for me to come there, and they don't have to foot a whole bill because I'm bringing in sponsorships with me in a sense. And then once I get to my 4 year, this is the controversial part is transferring. It's not going to help you. You think it might but if you go to junior college first, then you're able to get to the school you want to go to, and you look at schools differently. My path is this. Okay, so once you have the opportunity to go professional, if it's 1 year, 2 year, if that's your goal, take advantage of that goal now while it's there, because the next year is not guaranteed to you. And then you can start building your professional career and building its longevity at that point. Now, if you're not sure that professional is the route you want to go, then I will really focus on staying at the school that I'm at and establishing not only establishing myself, but earning my degree while I'm there and infusing myself into the community, helping out. And I'm a giver. I always give before I ask, right? Yes. So then I would give. I'd be at high school basketball camps, and all I'm doing is building my fan base as well while I'm doing that.
That's true.
And now we can go from there. So if when my career ends and I graduate, I'm a staple within the university's community. And now I have options.
Yeah. And also, I think people underestimate the power of the alumni.
Man, I was one of those people. I underestimated it. So,
yes,
absolutely right.
Yeah. So there's definitely a benefit, and especially like you said, if you're giving back to the community, that's always going to be positive. That's always something. And it also is going to bring on conversation, and it speaks to your character and who you are. Nobody's ever going to penalize somebody who gives back. It's just
Exactly.
it's never something that hurts you.
And then when it's time to try out for these pro teams, you have people rooting for you. You have a support
Yeah.
pushing you to get there. So
Yeah. And I've seen it even in college basketball. I've seen players who are very popular amongst the fans because they do get involved, and you've seen it just watching, especially nowadays. College basketball there's a part of entertainment in it because you get to see the players on social media. They show a little bit more of who they are outside of their sport. So I do get what you're saying. That does make a lot of sense.
I will say this. This is the one thing when you brought up entertainment, and that was the thing that hit me the hardest, more than anything, is when you realize that you're literally doing this. You're putting your heart and your soul into everything. When you take a step back and you think about it, it's like, wait a minute, I'm entertainment.
Oh yeah.
That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. I am playing a sport to entertain and take people's mind off their day-to-day lives. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what it is. And if you're approaching the job part, when it becomes professional, when those days you don't feel like playing, you're really just burned out. And if you take this mentality into college as well, I'm going to go play for me, but I'm also going to play for these fans that came to see me, because I don't know what they're going through, but I'm going to be their break from life. I'm going to give them something that they can go home and talk about and enjoy and have, did you see when they did X, Y, and Z? And if it's for 5 minutes, then we've done our jobs.
Yeah. And I've watched college basketball games. I've been to games, and I've seen kids interacting with the players after the games, and you could tell that there's somewhat of a relationship there. These kids have been there. Like, it's not like it's the first time the players interacting with these kids. These kids are probably at the game all the time, and they're there high-fiving them, talking to them. There's a relationship. And I just believe that matters. And I do have a question for you about that. What happens? How do we manage this in this world where a lot of players are transferring with NIL? I guess if you stay, that gives you an advantage in terms of the community, but also the cohesion of the teams, because just because you bring in a bunch of people doesn't mean, and you play it, so you know what I'm saying, doesn't mean it all meshes.
No, I can tell you that my first year at Texas State, we had a great group of guys. I mean, the guys were themselves. We got along. It was cool. It was everything. We just did not mesh on the court at all. We didn't mesh. And then going into my second year there, the coach got rid of everybody but 3 players. And the transfer portal is good to a degree, but if you're in a good situation and you feel like, I'm not getting the money I deserve, then my thing is go get the money, build your brand, and get it. But if you're in a good situation, you hold on to that situation. That situation can catapult you to where you want to be. But if you leave because you feel like I need the money, the money over the situation, you're going to get the money. The problem, one of the biggest problems I'm seeing right now, is that the kids aren't spending the money. It's the parents.
Yes.
The parents, the kids, when they get done, you're going to see a lot of people when they get done with their careers, like, where's my money? And it's not going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gone through this recruiting process with my son, and it's now I'm realizing why the coaches were really trying to get to know my wife and I. You could tell they were interviewing the parents. They were on just as much as they were talking to my son. They were talking to me, and it's probably because of that reason. They want to know you're not a distraction. That's what I took away from that.
Right.
And so,
Right.
yeah, that makes sense what you're saying. And the thing about players transferring is because we're in this world, we're watching some players transfer. We saw a guy transfer from mid-major to a high major, and his minutes dropped off, his scoring dropped by more than half, and he may have to go back in the portal, but he was doing well at this mid-major, and it was a school that was recruiting us. That's how we knew
Hmm.
about his situation. And so, he left a situation where he had the keys to the kingdom in a mid-major to go to an SEC high major team that ended up tanking. I don't want to throw people under the bus or name the
Right.
schools. He ended up doing worse than he was doing at the other school, and he probably played less minutes, and it probably wasn't a good fit. I mean, all I could do is all I did was I looked at the data because it was a school we were considering, and I wanted to see what happened when people leave from this mid-major school that then they're doing really well and they go to another school. And so what it tells me is that, like you were just saying, sometimes you're in a great situation. And if he'd maybe stayed another year, I think would have been his junior year, he would have done well at that mid-major. And then he probably would have been able to pick a better option, would have done a little bit more research, but
One of the things they don't research is, people think, oh, I went to a higher major school, higher level school, but are you looking at the program? What offense do they run?
yeah,
Is it an office where you can be successful in? Is it an office that you currently been running that gave you the success that you can transfer that success over to that because you know it already? But if you got to learn a whole new system, you don't know where to pick and choose your spots, and then you got to relearn it. We're behind again. We start out behind again where you had somebody that was running your system. Now the system was built around you, and you
yes,
leave it.
yeah. And the thing about it is, I think some of these guys probably are like another thing that people are not talking about, because I know the president was talking about like trying to limit how many transfers people could do. He had a executive order recently, and so they're trying to change the system. What a lot of people are not realizing is that the college coaches are putting some of these kids in the portal. Like some of them, they're being
Yep.
told, "Hey, you got to go in the portal." Like it's a polite way of saying we're cutting you.
Right, because they don't guarantee you 4 years
They don't.
anymore. There's not a 4 year guarantee anymore. That ended a while ago. The executive order, to me, meant nothing as far as but it did signal one big major thing to me. And everybody looked at the president. Oh, he's trying to the political climate we're in right now. I saw it as the NCAA must have had a conversation with the president. Some of the big wigs at the NCAA, and they want to rein in the NIL and the portal, and they needed something like that to set the tone. Now they can go in and start manipulating and putting it the way. We saw the gaps. We saw where all the problem areas are right now. Now we can go in and kind of fix those. As long as they do, and I'm all for that.
Yes.
I'm all for the financials and all that, but I think the financials need to be to a certain percentage, almost 50%, if not more, need to be put up somewhere, either in life insurance or something like that, where you can't touch it. So
Yeah.
whoever did Allen Iverson's contract and where he blew his
Adidas.
money, Reebok, Adidas,
Yeah.
whatever did that was the best thing that they could ever could have done for him because that saved his life.
Yeah, it sure did. It sure did. And that's what I wish. That's the piece that I think we're not talking about enough is the financial literacy and the protection of the players so that their finances are covered and they're at least given some kind of financial education. And more important, if they transfer, there's got to be some kind of plan for, all right, how do these credits come over? So you can't transfer until we've got to cover the education. So meaning you can't do 4 years of school, 5 years of playing basketball and not get a degree. There's got to be some system in place where, all right, there are academic requirements before you transfer.
Now,
So
what is right now, and every school has their curriculum and what they're passed to a degree. And some of those, because the state, that particular system might be a state school or university, was a state mandated courses that they had to have. So when you
okay,
transfer, you don't have that. So if you went to 4 different schools in 4 years, you might have 75, 50% of the credits required to graduate.
wow, yeah,
That's just what it is, and because you never got to your major,
yeah,
and never so that's one thing. Like you said, that's one thing that Players need to take into consideration. Parents definitely need to take that into consideration because now you're back to paying again. You did this to avoid that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I felt like you've got to be somewhat, you can't keep chasing the money and not think about, it's a shame that you would spend 4 or 5 years in college and not get a degree.
Yes, wholeheartedly. Because when you're done, again, like this is the biggest thing that I had to realize. And I went longer than most. I went as long as maybe of the 1%. I played until I was 26, 27 years old. That's not going to happen for everybody.
Yeah. No.
99% of the world is not going to happen. So the question is, and let's just say 25, 27. If my life's not over at 27, now I'm 51 now. Like I've doubled that age.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like we have to teach our kids to think beyond just one goal. Think beyond more than one goal. You're playing basketball to make money for what? What are you looking to make the money for? All right, now we know that we can have different avenues to get there while we're doing it.
Purpose.
Yes, exactly.
Purpose.
MVP, money, vision, and purpose.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
I've really enjoyed this. I want to ask you one final question. If you could get one point across for the college student athlete benefiting from today's market, what would it be?
Don't cheat yourself. And when I say don't cheat yourself, that means you are the most important factor in this equation. No one else. You are. You and your future are the number one factor in this equation. What are you going to do with it? And you got one chance, one life to live. What do you want to do with it? Basketball, sports is not the only thing. There are more. You can stay with this game as long as you want to, but there are different aspects to it, different facets. However, the longevity isn't in the playing. It's in the living. That's what longevity is.
Well said. Well said. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. I've truly enjoyed this conversation. I wish you much success with life after ball.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.